Hi guys, this is Stormmouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome to Ramblings of Mad People Spooky Month Edition 2023.
Ooh.
Ooh. So last month
And
was
Rob
October.
Birthday Month Edition.
That's right, it was your birthday last month. Not on
I'm getting
Halloween,
old.
but
No,
before.
I'm 35 now.
Ancient.
I feel it some days.
Yeah. The more the years go by, sometimes the more things start to fall apart, don't they?
True.
But it was a good month, I think, for us last month.
Yeah.
You had some goals and I wanted to do some spooky games.
Which I also got roped into. Kind of.
Yeah. So
Influenced.
so they were doing this challenge on a website that we use called True Achievements and True Trophies. It was called the Trick or Treat Challenge, and so you signed up for it, and it took your list of trophies or achievements that you have left in games that you have either started already or are on your games list that you haven't started yet. And it gives you either a challenge, which was the trick. So the challenge would be things like get 3 gold trophies
Or get like 3 trophies in a open world game. Or
Mhm. Yeah, I had one that was I think it was 3 or 5 trophies that were like 1.0 something ratio, right? That like really easy ones.
Yeah.
That is kind of hard because sometimes, a lot of things are at least a little bit harder than, the ones
they're
that
not
everyone
games that we play
gets.
as often.
Yeah.
Like, we're not playing a lot of the easy, like,
Sure,
click ones.
Yeah.
I had several that were like play a racing, like get 3 in racing games, and I'm like, I don't play racing games, but they gave you the option to like respin. I think it was 5 times.
Yeah, you could skip up to 5 of the ones that they gave you. And so that was the tricks. And then the treats were it took your list of trophies or achievements that you had and picked a list of 10 random ones, and you had to get one of those.
Yeah.
10.
So I only registered Cyberpunk. So that it only gave me trophies in Cyberpunk.
That's funny.
Because I think at minimum you needed like 30, and I had like 40 left, or like 37 left, and I was like, that'll do. And so I just had Cyberpunk one. So as I was working through, I just go, treat, okay, what's this one? Yep. I can do that. And treat. And treat.
And you had to do a total of 13 combination of tricks and treats, and you had to do at least 5 of each one. So we did I did exactly 5 tricks, and then the rest treats, because the treats were much easier because you could control, like we said, what trophies were in that pool,
Yeah, so I started a couple of games that I haven't really played anymore on for the Trick or Treat challenge. So I started Sleeping Dogs and Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, and then we started Overcooked All You Can Eat, but then played that as our co-op game.
We did
the month.
So we did finish that one,
and so yeah, I haven't finished Sleeping Dogs or Lovers yet.
And it was my goal for the whole month to just do at least games that were somewhat spooky, that had somewhat like spooky things with them, with the exception, I guess, kind of my first game, which I guess we can go ahead and get started with our games recap.
Yeah, because we've covered the like challenge and it influencing what we were playing.
Right. And so my first game that I completed this month, which was right at the beginning of the month, was Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was my 50th platinum.
Hey.
Yay! So that was one that I had planned on being a milestone for me, and I'm happy that it was the number 50. I had the original reboot, Tomb Raider reboot, as my 30th platinum, and so now I have Rise as number 50, and I don't think I'll do Shadow as one because I just don't care for Shadow as much as the other two. I think that a reboot is my favorite Tomb Raider game, and then Rise is a close second. I think the mechanics are improved for Rise. I just didn't like the story quite as much in that one, and so that's
whereas mine's
the
flipped,
difference.
where Rise is my favorite, and the reboot Tomb Raider is a close second, and then sadly Shadow was a shadow of the other two.
Yeah. The gameplay in it was good as far as I remember. I'm going to be playing it soon.
Me too.
And refreshing my memory. But the story was a little bit weird in Shadow. It didn't go in the direction that I kind of wanted or expected the series to go in. And yeah, the ending was a little bit wild.
Yeah.
So
it was like, huh?
Yeah, it just didn't feel as good as either of the other two. And so, but Rise was very fun. Just as good as I remember it being. And actually, the trophies are easier than the completion. The 100% completion of the trophies is easier on PlayStation than it is on Xbox because they removed a bunch of them.
Yeah. So I also played Rise at the end of the month, and was looking into the trophies as to what's changed. A lot of the DLC ones where it's like do X number of thing leading up to 10 times, they got rid of like the 3 and the 5s.
Yes. And so those, I think that makes sense, right? Because if they wanted to keep their trophy count a certain thing, or if, we talked about last time, the trophy score is they have to keep it under a certain amount, and so they had to remove some. That makes sense.
Something that I'd forgotten was that Rise released on PlayStation after Xbox. And so I think they took out a couple of the trophies that were buggy.
Okay.
So like the Baba Yaga one where you have to wear the outfit and use the bow, that bugged on me on Xbox. I had to wait for like a month for it to unlock.
Interesting.
Like I had to delete my save and then redo.
Yeah. So they took out some of those.
And in the main game, jumping in a well, for whatever reason, that was taken out. That's
the
only base game because I was jumping in that well.
Taken out. And you're like, why is this not unlocking? And it's because it wasn't a trophy. But the big reason why it's easier on PlayStation is because they took out the Ultimate Survivor trophy. Yep. So on Xbox, you have to play it on Ultimate Survivor mode, where you can't save. It only saves at campfires.
Yep.
And it's on the hardest difficulty, and there's fewer resources and everything. And on PlayStation, you don't have to do that mode.
Nope.
So
it's just gone.
And so I was like, because I was planning on doing, a regular playthrough and then the Ultimate Survivor. I wasn't going to do just the regular Survivor difficulty.
Yeah, that's what I was planning to do as well.
And then when I was looking through the trophies, I'm glad I looked at them, because then I realized I didn't have to do the Ultimate Survivor mode. And
I was the one that told you that you needed to do it because it was in the DLC.
Yeah.
And then you were like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
But it was a thing on Xbox.
Yep, but it's not on PlayStation. So that was a happy surprise that it was a little bit of an easier journey than I thought it was going to be. But still very fun. Did all the, gold star score attacks. That was fun to redo because that was something that I had made guides for in the past. And so, I kind of went back and watched myself do it before and go, oh man, what was I doing there? And was able to improve actually a lot on what I did before. In a lot of cases. I know.
Which is crazy super funny to think.
There was this one where I watched my video and I was shooting at this person and I could not hit them. Like think I shot at them like 12 times and missed. And I was like, oh, wow. What were you doing?
Yeah, because
so,
we use the infinite poison arrows card for those the score attack ones,
for a
and
lot
so
of them, yeah.
the floor and walls are your best friend because they do a
Absolutely.
little AOE. So you don't aim for the people.
You're not aiming for the people. You're aiming for the area of
because you can
effect,
get
right?
like 3. I think 5 people is the most I've got in one shot. I was like, lovely.
Yep. It's a very, very good card, and just understanding how to do things this time around made that so much easier. Understanding how to get the cards that you need, understanding how to get the score that you need, and just having played it more, so I know the levels better. Right? It was a pretty simple affair, and so it was really fun to go back and play through Rise. Lara Croft is a pretty great character in my opinion, and I'm happy that was my 50th platinum.
So my first completion, my first platinum for the month was Cyberpunk on the PS5. I played it because the 2.0 update had come out. I haven't played Phantom Liberty yet. I'm gonna wait until it's on sale probably at some point.
Yeah. How was the 2.0 update though? They changed a lot from what you said.
They completely revamped the skill set. There's, instead of there being 15 different skills, there's now instead of there being 25, there's 15, and there's only 3. There's 5 skills and there's 3 categories in each skill.
Okay.
So they've taken out annihilation. Oh God, what was it? Annihilation, endurance, and basically the health one, the one with shotguns and LMGs, and the one with melee attacks. They're all in one skill tree now.
Okay. So they streamlined things, I guess?
Yeah, they've streamlined it. And they've made it so that it's you have 5 abilities. So there's ninjutsu, which is sneaking and attacking people with swords and stuff, and tech and net running. And so as you level those up, you get skill points, and you need to level up. As you level up, you get skill points, and you also can get points in those categories, and they will give you skill points and perks as well. So it's you level up by getting XP, but you also want to do activities that level you up in those as well.
Particular skills that you're trying to.
And then you can, and then it has 3 different categories, and so it's level, I think it's level 4 unlocks one, level 9 will unlock the next, and level 17 or 15 will unlock the next one. And so it means that you can't just pump a load of perk points into the same thing to get really high skills really early. So I think it tries to balance it a bit more.
I see, yeah.
And it also means that you have one perk reset. So you can reset your abilities, once, which means that the missable trophies for you need body 20 aren't missable anymore as long as you don't use that reset.
Oh, okay, nice.
So if you can reset, get the trophy that you need, reload the save, reset again, do the other thing. So there's one for you need body 20 to revive yourself and kill the enemy that killed you.
Yeah.
So you don't need to super plan out your build.
Right. And so it sounds like it gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of your build, so that you don't have to do a specific one in order to get all of the trophies, because you can reset, reload.
Yeah, they also changed the crafting as well. So it's there's only one of each tier of crafting material rather than 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And you you have to make the crafting materials from the previous crafting materials, so it takes you a while to be able to get the legendary level gear rather than using a money exploit and being able to buy a
Right.
gun.
Yeah.
They also unlock the blueprints as you level up. So I think they tried to scale it better with leveling.
It sounds like, yeah, trying to scale things better so that people aren't able to get
Obviously, there's probably
super
exploits
powerful,
within there, but
super powerful stuff as early and super skilled as early. That makes a lot of sense. From what you said, it also sounded like there was more money.
I was just about to say that. Like,
Yeah.
Previously it was like you needed to do a bunch of the same thing to get money. So it was like craft this, sell it, buy more crafting materials, rinse, repeat, or like we did, pick up every weapon in the game that was like
and sell it,
blue tier or higher, and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just end up carrying around a load of rubbish. And
Right.
I feel like the drops for like legendary level stuff, like orange, were way higher. Like I was picking up purples and oranges like at level 30 as like nearly every other weapon. And they're worth a lot of money. And I think they also increased the amount of money in the like shop, the like little retail booth things that you sell the money, sell the weapons at. They like, as you leveled up, I think it went up to like 40 or 50,000.
Oh,
so it wasn't
great.
like
so
you
it
had to
wasn't
sell
like
it
you
at
had
one,
to sell it at
fast
one
travel
and go
to another
another
one. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a lot better experience. Playing it on the PS5, I don't know whether this was the 2.0 update or because it was on the PS5, the pop-in was gone. It was just smooth. It looked really good. It played really well. The frame rate issues were gone. So all in all, I am glad that I'm glad that I played it before, so I know how bad it was, so I can have an opinion. But I'm glad that they've done a No Man's Sky where it's like, you know, they've put some effort in to try and get their game up to the standard that they wanted it to be, rather than, you know, we made money out of you, we're not worried. Like some developers.
Sure, at least they put forth the effort to try to fix it, rather than just being like, oh well, it sold what it sold.
Yep.
On to the next cash cow.
Ubisoft, EA.
Yep. I saw, this is an aside, but I saw an article that said that they were done doing updates for Far Cry 6 now.
And, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not surprising to me either, but thinking that we played that game very recently and it still was such a bad experience trying to play it with the online connection requirement. It was just, it's like, oh, so you're done updating it now since, you know, you've made your money off of it and you've put out all the DLC and
yeah, exactly.
You know, it still doesn't work, but you're done.
But we're done.
So good to know that Cyberpunk, that their CD Projekt Red is still, you know, trying to make it a good game.
Ubisoft has honestly lost my support. Like, Mirage is the first Assassin's Creed that I haven't bought day one since the first Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I'll play the next Far Cry.
Yeah.
It's just like, up your game or lose my money.
Yeah. Do better.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because there are plenty of things to play.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, Cyberpunk, you enjoyed?
I did.
This was the third time you've completed that this year, right?
Yes. Yep. Okay. I have effectively done the plat 3 times, even though the Xbox version doesn't have a plat.
Right.
But yeah, I've done the base game 3 times in a year.
Yep.
Also, I've done, on a slight aside, I did the 100% in Bugsnax 3 times in the same year, as in the same 12 months.
Yeah.
Because I did like November, I think like June or May, and then August.
That's funny. Yep.
I like repetition.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just you get to where you know a game and it's fun to replay it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's fun to replay it and be able to trophy hunt or achievement hunt in it again, you know? So, yeah. All right. So, my next thing for Spooky Month, officially starting of the Spooky Month, was Murdered Soul Suspect.
Ooh, I did that as well.
And so that was on PlayStation. And I had played it before a long time ago on Xbox. And
did you play the one version or did you play the 360 version?
Yes, I think I played both.
I think we got one of them for free, or it was on sale.
Yeah, one of them
because I've only played the one version and now the PS4 version.
Let me look. Yeah, I completed both. I played the 360 version and I played the Xbox One version as well. Yeah, the 360 version I played in 2014. The Xbox One version I played in 2020. So I guess it hasn't been that long ago. But still, well, yeah. 3 years.
I think for me it was like 2015 or 16 since I'd played.
Yeah. And it's an interesting game, you know? It's definitely a B tier kind of a game.
Yes, it is.
You know, and it shows with that. The mechanics are not incredible. There's some sort of weird things with some of the graphics. You know, the voice acting is all right for the most part. It's not standout.
Yeah, the main character's voice acting is good, but some of the support casts is not on the same level.
And the story, I think, is interesting. You know, you play as this detective who gets killed at the very beginning. I feel like that's not a spoiler.
Okay. That's literally the premise.
That's the premise of the game. So he gets killed at the beginning of the game and becomes a ghost. And he's trying to find out who killed him and why. They are, because it was this murderer who, serial killer who has been killing people in Salem, Massachusetts. And they have been mostly killing women. And he was the first, I think, man that was killed by this person. And it was because he was, you know, tracking him and after him, and he got
basically in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a cop, so he was trying to catch him. So it was just he failed.
What I mean by that
right?
is like he wasn't like on the target list. He just happened to be interfering. He just happened to be interfering.
Doing. Yes, exactly. And so he's trying to solve the case and bring the murderer to justice. And along the way, you know, you can talk to other ghosts because there are other ghosts, you know, around, people who haven't moved on, and trying to solve some of their cases. You know, why did this person die? Why did that person die? Who killed me?
Why can't this person find their body?
Why can't this person find their body? Why can't this person move on? And so I think the premise is really interesting. You know, the execution was okay. There were way too many collectibles.
Far too many. It was just absurd. Like, that game would have been about 3 or 4 hours long, and it's like 8.
Yeah, because you're just running around.
And they're missable.
Mm-hmm. A good number of them are, yeah, because they're in places that you don't go back to. I think you can go back to a lot of the places before a certain
There's one
point.
Or two. Yeah, there's 1 or 2 locations that you just can't return to once you've left, and so they're literally like missable.
Yeah, so if you don't pick them up while you're there, you know. So, but I followed a collectible guide to make sure that I was picking up everything, especially since I've played the game before. I wasn't spoiling anything for myself. But I enjoyed it. I really like the mechanic where you can possess the cat. I think that's fun. And
there were also like different kind of possession mechanics that you could use. So you could like hitch a ride in someone's body to get past certain obstacles, or you could like go into someone's body to read what they're reading or to like overhear a conversation they're having with someone else.
Right. Or to read their thoughts.
That too. Or to influence their thoughts.
Yep, or to influence their thoughts. And so it made for an interesting kind of a puzzle solving mechanic, right? Where you were trying to figure out how to get around environments, collect clues. I liked the detective stuff and solving the mysteries. I thought that was pretty well done. It's a fun little game, and it's old now and it's cheap. And so if you have any kind of inclination toward something like that, it's definitely something to check out. The only real issue with it is that it has a bunch of collectibles. But again, it's still not a super long
graphically,
game.
it hasn't aged as well.
That's fair, yeah.
But, yeah, other than that.
But other than those things, it's a fun game with an interesting little detective story,
Yeah. Agreed.
So that was my second one for the month. Spooky month.
Spooky. I'm going to say that every time.
Yep.
So my next two were Skyrim and Citizen Sleeper, which I got the plat for both of those on my birthday.
Woo.
I'd planned it that way. Skyrim, I got the 100% as well. I wasn't sure whether I'd have enough time.
Mm-hmm.
I basically got to the point that I'd 100%ed Skyrim in 10 days.
Wow. Yeah, 100%. That's all the DLC and everything.
And then waited until my birthday to pop the Kill Alduin in Sovngarde trophy, and then I was done. And I was like, 88 hours.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun experience to just be like, I know this game well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna... I'll listen to the like main dialogue. I'll do the side missions that I need to do, but I'm not gonna like actively go out of my way to explore everything because I did that on the PS4 version.
Mm-hmm.
I did every side quest that I could find, went to like as many locations as I could find, learned every shout in the game, etc. And so I was like, I don't need to do that this time.
Yeah.
And so I did a like two-handed weapon build with light armor, enchantment, and smithing, and so I just wrecked everything. Didn't die particularly easily.
Yeah.
Had my orc wife companion to help me beat people down, and so I just thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I was like, it's just nice to be able to go back to a game and just be like, I just want to play this kind of quickly and see how fast I can get it done, but not like a casual speed run kind of thing, where it's like I have a date I want to get this done by.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I've got to get it done in 3 days, like dun because that 88 hours in 3 days is a death sentence and also not obtainable. But it's just Skyrim again. I wanted it on my PSN profiles, like as the platinum, even though it's just a platinum trophy. I was like, the game matters more to me than what the trophy is, and so I was like, I just would like that on my birthday as my 75th as a nice milestone of like, this is one of my favorite games.
Yeah, birthday present to yourself.
Yeah, and so I was like, excellent. I got 100% in Skyrim done, and then I did Citizen Sleeper. While I was kind of waiting for my birthday to come up, I was like, I'll do something short. And I was like, I could do Citizen Sleeper again. I've got it on PS4 and PS5. I'll do the PS4 version. And it was, as good as I remembered it being.
Right. From a couple of months ago.
Yeah, or even a month ago. I think it might have been September, so a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Actually, August. Because we're in November recording this.
Right,
So Yeah, my brain is like, wait a second, it'll be...
How many months ago is months?
All of the months.
Oh dear. Yeah, so that's really awesome that you got your 75th platinum. I got my 50th, you got your 75th. You got it on your birthday, and it was 2. So it was 75th and 76th.
75th, 76th.
Sweet. The next one that I did for Spooky Month was also, this one wasn't one that I had planned to do. It's one that I did because of the Trick or Treat challenge, because I needed some more
like Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time and Sleeping Dogs for me.
So it was What Remains of Edith Finch, which was not a platinum. It's the PS4 version.
And the one that I've done.
Yeah, and so it doesn't have a platinum. And so I did that version. I have both. So I have the one with the platinum to do later. But I wanted to get the PS4 version done first. And since it was kind of an unplanned venture, I was like, let me do that one and I'll save the platinum for later purposes. So that one, it had been a few years since I played that game. It's another one that I had played on Xbox previously and enjoyed. But I didn't own it. I played it when it was on Games Pass, and so it's nice to own it now.
Yeah.
Playing it on PlayStation. So that's cool, because I think it's probably my favorite of that kind of walking simulator genre, where
I don't know if I've played that many walking sims.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like Firewatch is one. Dear Esther, Gone Home, things like that.
Yeah, I think Firewatch and What Remains of Edith Finch are probably level for me as my kind of top ones. Dear Esther is just boring, sadly.
Yeah, it was kind of boring. I liked Gone Home. I didn't like it as much as Edith Finch. And Firewatch I like, but I like Edith Finch better. It's just, I like the quirkiness of it, and the message of it. And I don't know.
Like Firewatch because it's an escape. Kind of.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Edith Finch is just a little bit more my style. It's quirky. It's weird. It's got interesting graphics. It's got interesting changes to gameplay, right? So like in certain sequences, you're playing as a cat or an eagle, and then in another sequence, you're a person who is doing like a cannery thing, right?
Yeah.
So you're chopping
but you're
up
also
fish,
imagining,
but
like,
you're also imagining a whole fantasy
in a game.
Yeah, like a D&D game, effectively, right? That you're just making up in your head. And it's interesting. I think it's visually very, very cool. It's got a nice style to it, and the way that the story is told, and you kind of learn about all the different members in this kind of cursed family tree.
Yeah.
And it was just a cool story. I don't want to say anything more about it because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but if you like that kind of like walking sim kind of unraveling a story and unraveling a mystery.
Yeah, it's like a mystery,
you will probably like that one if you haven't played it. And I'll go ahead and talk about my next one as well, because since it was Spooky Month, I was like,
do it.
I have this game that I had started long ago, many moons ago, on Xbox. And I was like, I could try to finish Limbo. This was on Xbox 360. I started it in July 2011. So
I started it back in 1984.
That was before I was born.
I know. That's why I said it.
July 2011, so 12 years ago on the 360, I played it and I got all of the achievements except one, which was complete the game in one sitting with 5 or less deaths. I tried it a little bit at one point. I did like 1 or 2 runs, and I will tell you what, it's challenging, just getting some of the timing right on the sequences, some of the jumps. Sometimes you'll just randomly not make a jump that you've made every single time that you did before, but this time, for whatever reason, you were 1 pixel farther over and you just don't make it.
You
So
also
you
don't have
have
the
to be,
the
yeah,
muscle memory anymore because it's been so
yeah.
long since you played.
So I played through the game just regularly to get a feel for it again, and then I practiced a bunch of the individual sections because you can chapter select the different sections, and just played them over and over and over until I felt comfortable that I could get through that section without failing. And I did it. I think it took me 3 or 4 actual attempts
That's not bad at all.
before to get it. And the time that I got it, I only died twice.
Wow.
The whole time. I down at the end there's a bunch of very precise things. It's pretty hard. And so I was at the end, after every single, section, I'm sitting there, I'm like shaking my hands out, the adrenaline's going, and I'm like, okay,
boom,
breathe.
Boom, boom, boom,
You've
boom,
got
boom,
this.
boom, boom, boom.
We just have to get through the next section. And it was kind of like that, okay, one jump at a time, one section at a time, trying to make my way through it. And I didn't die. Both of those deaths were toward the beginning. I didn't die at all the second half of the game.
Wow.
Which is by far the harder part of the game, but it was the part that I had practiced more. And I had thought about restarting because during that run, I had died once before I hit the cocoon section. So anybody who knows, or I guess it's not a cocoon really, it's you get wrapped up by a spider. So I had died once before that section, and advice on doing the achievement is if you die before that section, you should restart because that's the easiest part of the game, right? And yeah. I had messed up a jump and died because, like I said, it's very easy to do. And I just decided to keep going with it just to see. And that was the time that I managed it. And I died one more time to something silly. And then the whole rest of the game was good. And I was like, holy crap, I did it. So I got the last achievement in that to complete Limbo. It was called No Point in Dying. And I felt pretty proud of myself for going back and doing that. Not an easy accomplishment, maybe not the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's probably up there on the list of difficult achievement or trophies.
Yeah, it makes me think of like when I did the Impossible Layer on Ukulele and the Impossible Layer, because it was like that was the like pinnacle of that game's like challenge of like you have as many hits as bees you've collected in the game. You have like 100. And it was, I'm not the world's best platformer. I also think I was using a partially broken controller at the time.
Yeah.
That would just like to run me off the
edge. As we often are.
Yeah.
Because they just break when you play as much as we do.
Mm-hmm. Just wear and tear. Like, we're not angry gamers where we throw them around. It's just like we use them so much they just wear out. But it was like that sense of elation at the end after you've done runs and you're like, I've okay. The good thing about the Impossible Layer when I played it was they put checkpoints in, and so you could do a run of a section at the start and be like, okay, I've got through, I've got 50 bees left. And I think I ended up in the last section with like 3 to do the entire final section and final boss. And I was like, well, I've got this far.
We're going to do it.
I'm just going to have to like Superman the mechanics.
Yep.
So,
yeah, no, for sure.
It's congratulations on that Limbo one, because that one is one that you were like, you felt that you could do it. You just needed to put the time in.
Exactly.
The same with Titanfall.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. It was one of those very similar to Titanfall 2 where I was like, I'm sure I can do this. I just need to get it in my head that I'm going to do it and I'm going to devote the time to doing it. And it really only took a couple days of practicing and putting in a few hours and, you know, getting that skill back,
Yeah.
right? And it's a really good game. So for anybody who has not played Limbo and likes platformers and likes that kind of, it's got that cool black and white aesthetic
It's like
and was
almost
one of the
silhouettes.
yeah, and was one of the first games that kind of did that type of aesthetic, I think, and sort of popularized it for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's got a lot of interesting set pieces, like, the hotel sign that you're moving across, and the spider and the little like dog creature when you use that to try to like move a wheel to turn on some water. And then you have, the gears sections where you're on some gears that are moving around, and you have the buzz saw sections where it's like that can, and the deaths are brutal, just the brutal deaths that you have. It's not gory because it's
But
black
it
and
looks
white,
painful.
right? But it is in the sense of like your character gets decapitated or impaled or just like ripped
It's almost
apart,
like the
right?
character model just falls apart.
Yes, the character model just falls apart, and it's it's just a good game. It's a really good little platformer. And so, you know, if anybody at this point, I mean, it's an old game at this point, but if anybody hasn't played it and is into that kind of thing, definitely it's a recommendation. Although that achievement is challenging, so you got to be prepared for some challenge, you know. Not challenge in the sense of like you're probably going to put your fist through your TV, because it's not that bad, but it is some dedication. So that was cool. What you got left for this month?
Literally just Overcooked.
All right. Well,
Well,
that was our
that I
co-op thing.
finished this month.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was our co-op game this month. Overcooked All You Can Eat. We got the free upgrade to the PS5 version.
We did, and so I used that as one of my trick or treat. I think it was one of my tricks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Hey, should we just play this as our co-op game because it's
Yep.
Overcooked and it's fun?" And
Yeah,
so
and it had spooky parts to it because
it did. The
Overcooked
Unbread.
2 is the Unbread, right? With the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
And so it counts.
And the first one also has a haunted mansion.
Right. Yeah,
So
and you can play as like ghost characters and
Mhm.
werewolves and vampires, and you have to do that for one of the trophies. So I was like, yes, that counts for Spooky Month. Let's
It
do
does. It does count as Spooky Month.
Absolutely.
Basically, it was as fun as I remember it, if not more, because this time we weren't going for 3 stars
Mm-hmm.
because we'd done it before. There
Yeah.
isn't any trophies in this one
Mm-hmm.
associated with 3-starring every level. I think
Yeah.
there's one where you have to 3-star as box chefs. So it's like a chef that's got a box for a
Right.
hat.
Yeah.
Or a box for a head. And so we were like, we'll try and get 3 stars on most levels. But if we only get 1 or 2 and we don't like, because there's a few stinking levels in it
Yeah.
that we're just like, especially in Overcooked 1, I think,
Yeah.
with the inability
Yeah.
to throw things, it's like
Mm-hmm.
we just want to have fun. We don't want to get stressed, and so
Yeah.
we just ran through, got 3 stars on most levels, I would say, and just had a lot of fun.
Yep.
And
throwing rice in cook pots or
setting fire to the kitchen occasionally.
setting fire to the kitchen.
Especially in the versus modes where we were like, we don't really want to play these, but we have to. And so I did my best to set fire to every single tile in the kitchen.
Yep, as much fire as possible.
One thing I really liked about it was the fact it has crossplay, and we
Mm.
were able to use our PS5s and PS4s to do the 4-player trophies without having to set up any
Yes.
sessions.
Yes.
Boosting
we
with
did.
ourselves.
Boosting with ourselves. Playing with our alternate accounts, which now we can platinum again on our alternate accounts.
Because we have all of the 4-player trophies on them, so we can get the plat on there. That would potentially be the second platinum I have on my alt.
It would be the first platinum that I have on my alt.
The only one I've done on there was Destiny, because
yeah.
I didn't know whether I was gonna get the plat or not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Overcooked was just fun, and I wish they would make another one.
I know. It's just a fun game with good mechanics. Things work well for the most part, except I'm forever picking things up from the wrong tile and putting it down on the wrong tile, but that's probably a me problem and not a game problem. And
I'm a demon of speed in that game.
Yeah, and a little bit the lag. It can be problematic sometimes.
And it was very strange that you had lag when you were hosting and I didn't.
Yeah,
I don't know what was going on. It was like Overcooked just likes to lag you out, and I was on. They were like, "Oh, he needs the speed because he's the one that's dashing around like a lunatic."
He's the one that's going, and then you dash into each other, and one goes flying off the level. Or both go flying off the level and you die. It's just a lot of fun. I love Overcooked, and I agree. I would love for them to make a 3, Overcooked 3. So,
I will say, having come to the end of my stuff, I made that goal to get my 4,000th trophy on Christmas Day. I've decided to get it by Christmas Day because I got 302 trophies last month. So I've done quite well.
You are a crazy person.
Because I am a war machine.
Yes.
Sometimes. Yes. And so I was like, well, I might get it early. So I'm not going to like hobble myself to having to get it on Christmas Day. I've also decided to get the plat in Rise of the Tomb Raider as my 4,000th. And what I'll do is I'll just leave the Ultimate Survivor or Extreme Survivor? Which one's the one that's in it?
Extreme Survivor? I think the Ultimate Survivor one is...
It's the one to do it on Survivor mode, the base game version. I'll have 2 trophies left, so I'll need to get to 3998 and then pop those 2.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm gonna get everything else done in that. And then I hit it on the nose, hopefully.
Yeah. So that was your month, because you had some long things. You had some long hauls. You had Skyrim and Cyberpunk.
Took me to the 8th.
Yeah.
And then... Well,
because you had started Cyberpunk the month before.
Yeah, but to finish it, it took me that long.
Yeah.
And then Skyrim pretty much took me up to my birthday minus a couple of days, which was on the 21st, and so...
Yeah. So you did some long things. Mine were, for the most part, a little bit shorter, except for one, which I will talk about at the end, because it was the last completion that I got for the month. Although I started it near the beginning of the month. So the next thing that I finished was a visual novel, the second one that I've ever played, but it was called Heart of the Woods. And this one, I enjoyed this one. Was it
spooky?
It was spooky. So the premise of this was you play as a pair of girls who have a YouTube channel. They don't call it YouTube, but it's like YouTube.
FunTube.
And and a VTube or something. And they investigate paranormal sightings, right? And they record them researching that and then going out and investigating the ghost sighting or the, vampire sighting or whatever, right? And so they one of them had decided that she didn't want to do it anymore, and this was going to be her last one. And so there's a little bit of friction between the pair of friends as they go on this last ghost hunt, effectively. And the one who's leaving the show doesn't really believe that any of these things actually exist, because none of the things that they've ever investigated has ever been real. There's never been any evidence that it's ever been real. And she's like, this is stupid. I want to have a real career in a real life. Right. And then the other girl is more of a believer, and she's like, it's out there, we just haven't found it yet.
I'm a believer. Wait.
Right. And so they come to this town, and they're investigating this presence in the woods. And I won't spoil much more from there, but needless to say, there are paranormal things that are going on in this town and in the forest. And so it's a little bit of a ghost story. It's also a love story, and it's voice acted, which I really liked, and made it better than the other visual novel that I
where you're just reading the novel.
Where you're just reading the novel and you just click through the different text. So this one, you clicked through the text for the descriptions of things, but when there was dialogue, it was voiced.
Okay.
Right? And so that really made a big difference. It also had some really good music that went along with it, that played in the background. The visuals were nice. It had a good sort of art style and some animation. And it was an interesting story. It was I think it took me about 10 hours total to do the whole thing, because you had to there were a few choices that you made that impacted the ending, and there were 3 or 4 different endings that you needed to get. And so you could I skipped through a bunch of the parts to get to some of the choices on subsequent playthroughs, but then I played through the finale bits because they were different, right? Quote unquote read through the finale bits
right.
that were, because they were different. And so if you enjoy visual novels and a little bit of spooky stuff and a little bit of spicy stuff, because there was some spice, a little bit in it. It wasn't pornographic or anything like that, but it was a little bit of, it was a love story. And so if you're into that kind of a thing, it was pretty cool. I will say there was one of the voice actresses' voices that I didn't care for. So, but you can mute separate ones. So I muted that one, and it made it much more enjoyable for me, because I was like, this is irritating me. I can't stand her voice. And so I muted her, but kept all the rest of them on.
You pretended you were her.
And I didn't pretend I was her, but I just
You voiced all the lines out loud as if you were talking to the the people.
Did not do that.
You should have done that. Would have been funny. And recorded it and put it up on your channel. I impersonate a video game character.
Right. This is me thinking that I can do a better voice acting job than the person that was paid to do this, which is possible. But I wouldn't. I wouldn't toot my own horn that way and diss somebody else's performance. But all in all, I enjoyed it. It was definitely a much better visual novel than the other one, which was called Synergia.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the cyberpunky kind of a thing, which unfortunately the pacing and whatever, this one was much better written and much better paced.
Well, when you've got a visual novel that isn't well written, that's basically not a good combo for the game.
For sure.
Because it's all there is.
Yeah, Synergia was written all right. Like, I won't say that it was bad, but the pacing was
it was bad. I've never played it.
You didn't read it.
Play
but
it.
The pacing was not great toward I would say the second half of it. It was just not as good. So, but Heart of the Woods was fun.
To go by the logic of the internet for Synergia, I've read reviews, so I don't need to play it because I was told by someone else that it was bad. So therefore, my opinion is it was bad because someone told me it was, and not because of any opinion I've made myself.
We don't agree with that.
But my logic is undeniable.
We do not agree with that logic. Anyway, the next actual game that I played was called Soma, and it definitely counts for Spooky Month. This is probably one of the best like psychological horror kind of games that's come out in recent times.
This game.
I know you don't like horror games.
I like some action horror games, but
not like horror games. So this one is the premise is that you're a guy who was in a car accident and you have a brain bleed and you go and have a brain scan and then you wake up in this underwater facility after the end of the world.
What?
And there's all these machines and these monsters that are, roaming around, and the people are few and far between, and you're trying to figure out what happened and what happened to the world and what happened to the people, and you're basically trying to save what's left of humanity, right? And it's got a really creepy atmosphere. You cannot fight. So there's no guns, there's no weapons that you have to fight these creatures with. You just have to avoid them. And if you cannot avoid them, then you die. And so it's interesting from that perspective and scary from that perspective of you are someone who you cannot fight back against these creatures, and so you have to figure out your way around the environment and not get caught by them, and etc. It's a really cool environment. I like the underwater stuff. I like the story without spoiling any of it really, about what happens and whatnot, but it's an interesting look at humanity and what we could become and what makes a person who they are and that sort of thing. So
interesting.
It's an interesting psychological horror game. The next one that I played was one that recently came out and came to Games Pass, so I played it over on Xbox. It's called Cocoon, and it was made by one of the people who originally made Limbo. And so since I had recently played Limbo, I was like, oh, Cocoon, that's come out. Let me play that. So good. This game is super fun, and it's... I don't know that it's really a horror game. I wouldn't call it a horror game. It's got some interesting aesthetics to it, and some things that are, I guess, a little bit spooky, but I wouldn't say that it's a horror game. I definitely think it's one that you would enjoy, not being a horror person. I think that it's one that you would like. Mm-hmm. It's a little adventure puzzle game, so it's not a platformer. Yeah, it's not a platformer like Limbo. Yeah, it's an adventure puzzle game, and
I'm
you play as this
retired platformer at this point.
And you play as this creature. So they are not. I don't know that they're a recognizable creature because they're not really a moth, or it's like a moth person kind of a thing.
You play as Mothman?
Yes, we'll call it that. So you play as a moth person. And you come out of your cocoon, and you are trying to get to the end of the game. I'm like, what are you trying to do? What is it that you're attempting to accomplish? What is the motivation of this thing?
You're attempting to eradicate the world from mothballs and
no.
Create a utopia of shirts that you can eat.
You're trying to, I think, release these creatures that are trapped, the ancient ones, and I suppose you're just trying to get to the end of the challenges that are presented before you. There isn't really a story. It's not a story game. So, or it's, I suppose, one of those things that might be really up to interpretation. But the mechanics are super interesting because you are within these spheres, these biomes, right? And you can get out of the biome, and then the biome itself is in a sphere, and you can go into the sphere and then come out of the sphere. And you can get, along the way, you collect different ones and unlock different abilities with each one to be able to do things like one of them makes a light that creates bridges that you can walk across. One of them allows you to duplicate the spheres in different locations. So if you can't move one sphere from one side of a small gap to another, you can go through the small gap and then pick up another sphere, and it's copied it now. And so the old one disappears and now it's the new one. And then so they allow you to do different things like that to be able to traverse the environment better and to solve the puzzles and to move through to the next area. But the cool thing about it is you can also put a world within a world. So you can have one of the spheres that you're carrying when you go into another sphere. And so now you have the green sphere inside of the orange sphere. Or even, layers more than that, the purple sphere inside the green sphere inside the orange sphere.
So it's turtles all the way down.
Exactly. It's spheres all the way down. And sometimes things will then you just think it's like thinking with portals, right? Thinking with spheres. And so, if something is impacting the sphere that another sphere is inside of, it impacts that one as well. And so you're able to do things like shoot a beam of light into one and then it comes out of another.
Okay.
For example. And you're able to solve more complicated puzzles that way. It's a really fun game, and I definitely recommend it if you like those kinds of third. It's like isometric third top down, third person puzzle adventure kinds of a thing. Very cool, awesome visuals, really good puzzles. Makes you feel smart.
Hope it's on sale this Black Friday or Christmas.
Yeah. So, Cocoon, very good. The next one I played was also on Games Pass, and I played it because it was on my list of things that I would like to play, and was also spooky, because this one is a survival horror game, but was going off of Games Pass at the end of the month. And so I was like, I want to play this before it goes off. And it's called Signalis. And this came out last year, toward the end of last year, 2022. And it's an old school survival horror game that is pretty reminiscent of stuff like the original Resident Evils, that kind of a thing, where you're moving through areas and you have enemies, you have these zombie kind of enemies, and you have limited resources, so you have limited ammunition and healing items and stuff like that you have to pick up from the different rooms, and you're trying to save someone. So it's the premise is you are on a spaceship, your spaceship has crashed, you're playing an artificial intelligence person, so like a cybernetic person, and you're trying to save the pilot, I believe, the person that you crashed with. And you don't know where she is. You think she's gone to this mining colony on this planet. And so you go there, but then you find that the mining colony has kind of been infected and overrun by these zombie creatures. And so you're trying to find her. And it gets a little bit more psychologically wonky from there, but that's the premise of it. Okay. And it's got kind of they're a little bit of like pixely kind of graphics, right? So it looks like old school graphics. I don't know,
8 or 16-bit?
64. It's not 8-bit for sure. It's more
16?
like 64-bit or, you know.
Is it 3D?
Something like that. Yeah, it's 3D.
Okay. So yeah, maybe 64.
No,
32?
It might not be. It might not be 3D. It's pixely.
It's got the pixelated art style that may or may not be 8, 16, 32, or 64.
I don't know the difference because I just don't know.
8-bit is like the really old looking stuff. And
it's not the really old looking stuff. I think it's more around something that looks like
Mega Drive.
Yeah, maybe
that might be 32 then.
Those kinds of graphics.
Or
16. And
my bit stuff is a bit rusty as to like what's what.
We don't know our bits. But you have to find different like keys, and I need this key card, and so you have to look around and solve puzzles and try to get the items to make the keys and get the key cards and get through these areas and find the screwdriver to open the vent and like all those kinds of good old survival horror puzzle type stuff, and have, resource management with your ammo and your weapons because you can only carry so many things at once. But it does have a Resident Evil style box in the save room that transfers to all of the other save rooms. So if you put stuff in the box in one save room, when you get to the next save room, the box is there and you can pick your stuff out of it. So that's nice.
Nice.
And so it was cool. I liked it. It was kind of a trippy in terms of the story and the concept. It was one of those like psychologically weird kind of a things that I'm into, but not everybody is. And that's fine.
Nope.
But if you're into that kind of thing and you're into kind of old school survival horror, this might be a game for you. And the last thing that is done, and then I promise I'm finished, it was The Quarry. So this was a game that I had purchased at the end of last year, but I kind of saved it for October this year because it's spooky game, right? And so this is by the same folks that did Until Dawn. I think they do the dark anthology, like Man of Medan.
Oh yeah, like House of Ashes and
yeah, those games as well, I think. But this one felt very similar to Until Dawn. I haven't played any of the other ones, but
no.
I've played Until Dawn, and this one felt very similar to that. It had really good facial capture and acting. They had some, decent name actors. Like they had David Arquette and Lance Henriksen and a couple of other folks that are recognizable, doing the characters. And it was very similar to that Until Dawn style, where you play as different characters at different sections and it flip-flops between them, and you make choices as far as your dialogue and what you do and where you go, and you pick up things, and the choices that you make determine who lives and who dies, and also how well you execute things like quick times and stuff like that, and what things you've picked up or not picked up, or the way that you choose to go through the story determines the fate of the characters within the story. And this one has to do with werewolves, right? And so there's these kids, and they were counselors at a summer camp, and stuff happens, and they get stuck at the summer camp for an extra night, and that extra night happens to be a full moon, and the werewolves come out, right? And so you're playing as these different kind of high schoolers. They're probably 17, 18. They're finishing up their high school careers, right? And they're trying to survive this night with these werewolves that are out to get them. And so you can, depending on things that you do, characters might die, or they might get infected and turn into wolves themselves, right? And it's interesting going through, number one, seeing how the story unfolds, and number two, trying to keep people alive or kill them, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think I like the story as much as Until Dawn. I did like the story of Until Dawn quite a bit. So I don't know that I like this one quite as much, but it was still a good horror title within that same vein. And some people may like this one more, just depending on which premise you like better, right? And with this one, similarly to Until Dawn, you had to do several playthroughs to be able to get all of the achievements or trophies associated with it, because you have to do a playthrough where everybody lives, and you have to do a playthrough where everybody dies, and you have to do a playthrough where everybody gets infected, and you have to do a playthrough where these specific characters end up in this specific situation. And so it was a lot of replaying different parts and full playthroughs of the same thing. And so by the time I finished it, this is why it took all month, because the main game probably is about 8 to 10 hours to get through.
Yeah.
But you just have to play it so many times. And so it just took a long time. And I didn't want to play it all back to back to back to back, because I would have hated it by the end. So I tried to space it out in between some other things. But that was the end of my October, was The Quarry. And then the last thing that I will say is we got, another little milestone together.
Yeah.
I hit my, what was it? 2,500. I don't even know now.
I think so.
2,500 trophies. And decided that we wanted to do a special one for that. And so we did Adventure Besties in the DLC for Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is from the Endurance Mode DLC, which is really fun. I enjoyed that DLC a lot.
And it was a lot better than when we played it originally, because we've played the patched version where you can shoot traps on the floor so that they don't count as being triggered. Whereas before you had to time your jumps perfectly to not trigger them. Or avoid them, leave the crypt and come back and...
Yeah.
Or leave the crypt and find another one and hope that they didn't have any traps.
Yeah. So it was cool to get that one for my 2,500th.
Yeah, it was.
We had fun.
That was my suggestion. I was like, you could get Adventure Besties.
And I'm like, oh yeah, because I noticed that I was 3 trophies away or something. And I'm like, oh, I should pick out a milestone. I think you're right. And so, and it was like, what do I have that I'm close to? And you're like, you could do Adventure Besties. And I'm like, yeah.
Because we refer to ourselves as the Adventure Besties.
We do. Because of that.
Yeah.
That achievement in that game.
And we also have a little pin thing from D&D that is Adventure Besties, but it's split in half.
Yep. So it's our friendship pin.
Yeah.
But, so that was fun and a nice little capstone for October. So Yeah, how are you feeling? I feel like we both had really good months. I know I played a lot more things, and so I'm sorry I kind of like monopolized the end of that.
No, it's perfect. I knew that was going to happen because I just played longer stuff, and it's also not stuff I really know much about because I don't play horror games, and so I was like, I don't have a lot to say.
So you hadn't played any of them.
No, and I have no intention of playing them either. But I'm happy that you enjoyed them. But yeah, no, I had a damn good month. I had 300 trophies. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm semi-close to 1,000 achievements on Xbox, so I might try and aim for that by the end of the year, and I'll definitely hit 1,500 trophies. And so, you know, it's like we talked about before. I'm better off coming up with like goals and stuff over the course of the year, as it's like, ooh, I'm close to this, or ooh, I'm close to that. Like with Adventure Besties, right? Where it's like,
yeah.
And I couldn't get Adventure Besties as my 4,000th because I was so far away. And I was like, instead, I'll just get the Platinum as my 4,000th, and that's my way of having like, this game contains Adventure Besties.
Yeah, and it's a good game and one that you like. So.
Yeah, but it's like it's nice to have that as like an homage to our like co-op shenanigans.
For sure. There were no rabbit suicides.
Not this time.
In the Tomb Raider survival or endurance mode.
I didn't see that many pallets, to be fair.
Right, yeah. That's a good point. I don't know that I saw any pallets, or very few, if there were any.
I wasn't looking out for them specifically, but...
Yeah, there's... In the first game, and I will put this clip in if I can find it, if Xbox hasn't deleted it.
Yeah, because Xbox is now going to delete all of our captures,
our clips.
After 90 days. I gotta go
through. That's a good point. I need to go through and capture all my captures.
I don't know as I have anything to like put mine on, so mine may be consigned to oblivion.
Yeah, I mean, you could upload them to something like YouTube or something like that. Or I think actually Xbox has a way that you can back them up. I think that they gave instructions for that. So we'll have to look into that. But if I can find the clip, I will put it in here. But the first time we played through endurance mode, we were standing beside this fire barrel to warm up, and this rabbit hopped into a wooden pallet that was on the ground and just died.
It was like, oh, thanks. It was like hair delivery services. Yeah, here's some food.
It was just hilarious.
It was.
So none of that this time, unfortunately.
We just hear this squeak, and it's like,
yep.
What the hell was that? That rabbit just committed suicide. Died out of fear.
Yeah, it was wild. But yeah, really good month. I played a lot of good spooky games, and I feel like I, for the most part, held to that theme of playing kind of Halloween themed or spooky month themed stuff, which was nice. Because I do enjoy that kind of a thing. I like my horror and survival horror and action horror titles.
Yeah, like spooky Halloween stuff just kind of goes over my head. I was never interested in it as a kid, and we don't really have Halloween the same as the US anyway. And I've never really like survival horror jump scare stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't like horror as a general rule, for the most part.
I mean, action horror I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Like, Doom, and because, there's horrific elements in that. You're ripping people's entrails out and like punching people into a bloody mess. Or like State of Decay. People get ripped apart and eaten by zombies, but I like that because it's like resource management.
Yeah. Yeah. So... yeah, I guess it just depends. It just depends on the type of thing. And you like stuff like, we watched the Underworld movies, which are interesting. Average to slightly above average at best movies.
The first one's the best, and then they just kind of steadily decline. And I think the second one's kind of the worst. But yeah, like there's gore and stuff on that. But I guess, I think to me, it looks so fake that I don't really register that it's, I'm like, they couldn't really afford good special effects.
Yeah. And you enjoyed Aliens too. Aliens.
Yeah. Aliens was good because it was action and not suspense, horror, and also had aged better, in my opinion.
Yeah. The CGI had aged better.
Yeah, like I don't mind action horror. I don't need to be scared out of my skin to have a good time.
Yeah. You don't like the sort of thriller, psychological horror, going through a corridor, wondering what's going to pop out at you kind of a experience. And
I'd just throw grenades down that corridor until everything was dead.
Right, except when you don't have grenades.
Well, I'd make sure I have grenades, knowing that I live in a world where there's horrific things.
Yeah.
Because these people are silly. Half the time. In these survival horror games where it's like...
It's true. I'm just going to go in here, it'll be fine. I'm sure I'll find something to help me.
There's horrific monsters everywhere, but all I can think about is trying to date someone, so I'm going to blow something up or sabotage something that makes it bad for everybody else. But, my logic was perfectly fine. What?
Yep.
Silly people.
I don't even know. Anyway, that was our October. We hope that you enjoyed your October and your spooky month. Let us know if you played some spooky games or some non-spooky games and, how you've been doing. And here we are coming up toward the end of the month, or the end of the year.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. It's.
Well, we're also coming up to November, which is usually my hammer down month. So we'll see how I get on with that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a month of just you talking on our next podcast.
Yeah,
because so far we're a week into November at this point, and I haven't completed anything yet. So
I may have done a few things.
So the situation may be reversed for our next podcast.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
But we'll see how it goes. So. You guys take care of yourselves. Have a good November. And we will see you next month.
Bye-bye.